Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be doing what if Naruto ate the gum gum no mi. This was suggested by Darker. Make sure to like and subscribe. Disclaimer. There may be mature content and maybe 18 plus. With that stuff out of the way, let's begin chapter 1. Naruto's bloodline. And I got a lot of shit in my Harry Potter Pokemon X over for not fully explaining how Dumbledore found the Pokeballs and why the Pokemon went to Hogwarts. So the Luffy topic will be fully explained later in the story. It would spoil tons if I explained now. A 5-year-old blonde hissed in pain as he moved through the dark forest. Naruto Uzumaki heard his stomach roar. Today was his birthday, or as he called it, the most hated date of the year. His muscles ached from lack of energy. He swung his fist into a tree and immediately hissed in pain. Why is it always me? The child hissed. Are you a little young to be out here alone? Naruto looked at the old man in front of him. He wore a faded red vest and jean shorts. On the top of his head was a worn-out straw hat. His skin was wrinkled, and his once pitch-black hair was gray and white. My name is Mickey D. Luffy, he introduced himself. Naruto looked at the man's eyes and see nothing but concern for him. I have to hide, Naruto whispered. His skin was pale from fear. Why? The old man asked. He tugged the straw hat off and began eating an orange. I don't know why. He looked at the man. His stomach roared as the man ate. Luffy smiled and handed half the orange to Naruto. The people of my village hate me, he added, eating the orange quickly. Luffy smiled sadly. I see. He handed Naruto an orange. Do you want to hear a story of me in my younger days? He asked. Naruto smiled. Sure thing, old man. For the rest of the day, and until Luffy talked, holding Naruto's attention with stories of adventures of his crew, how he had become king of the pirates, his fights with many of the strange and powerful pirates. Luffy smiled as boy began to act out the stories. Luffy stopped and said, Naruto, do you want the power to defend yourself? Luffy had his straw hat off and put it on the top of Naruto's head. Naruto looked up from underneath the hat and nodded. Luffy smiled and dug into his bag. Naruto watched as pulled out a large purple fruit. It's called the gum gum fruit, Luffy explained. Naruto looked at the strange purple fruit. He looked up at the old man and swallowed the fruit whole. He nearly puked at the rubber-tasting fruit. Luffy laughed heartily at the young blonde. Here, this will help you with the powers you have just received, he told Naruto. Luffy handed Naruto a small leather-bound book. Luffy stood up and began down the path. Naruto jumped up and yelled, Hey old man, where are you going? Back to my wife, Luffy answered simply. Naruto watched the man disappear. The sunlight began peeking over the tree. Naruto sighed. It's a new day. It's time to start my journey to become the greatest Hokage, he exclaimed, throwing his hands into the air. Naruto felt a strange sensation pass over him as his arms stretched into the air. What the? Naruto's screams echoed loudly through the forest. 1 year later, Naruto was standing in the training field. He was snapping his arms lightning fast, stretching across the field and slamming into a mannequin. His hand snapped back, and he immediately spun his wrist. Gum gum drill, he exclaimed loudly, throwing his fist forward. His fist spun, and he slammed into the mannequin. His spinning fist immediately seared through mannequin. Naruto snapped his wrist back and smiled. Before yelling loudly, his fist raw from the friction, Naruto bounced from foot to foot, blowing on his fist. Never again, he cried. Naruto didn't notice a man in a deep green spandex suit with a large grin watching him. A red-eyed teen and silver-haired man shook their head. Naruto has the flames of youth that are burning brightly, the man roared joyously. White guy, the green man's comrades snapped in unison. 1 year later, Naruto was dodging wild haymakers, swung by his classmates. He smirked when he seen an opening rapid fire, Naruto exclaimed, jumping into the air and sending his rubber arms towards the shot boar. Naruto's classmate threw up his arms to defend himself, but was propelled backwards from the fists. Naruto smiled as the boy flew out of the white circle and rolled unconscious to Iruka's feet. Naruto swung the hat confidently on his outstretched fingers. 1 year later, Naruto was moving quickly, swinging his arms in a lightning-fast movement. He suddenly snapped a large knife out of one of his pouches and threw it. He was sweating and breathing deeply. He took the straw hat off his head. Naruto sighed loudly. The moon glinted off the small pond. Naruto swung his arm and stretched his arm and jumped into the tree. He was moving quickly. Naruto stopped abruptly. He heard a loud crack of a slap. Quite Brad, a man hissed loudly. Naruto looked towards the voice and moved slower. Naruto glared at a large man carrying a small girl. The man was thick, wearing pure green. The little girl was a small blue-haired girl with a bowl cut and white kimono. Her eyes were pure white. The man slapped the thrashing girl again. I said quite, he growled. Naruto jumped off the thick branch and exclaimed, Gum gum rapid fire. The man whipped around just in time to take 4 blurred punches to his gut. He released the girl and grabbed his belly and yelled in pain. Naruto landed and spun his fist. Gum gum drill, Naruto swung. The man screamed in agony as the fist dug into his belly. Gum gum wrecking ball, Naruto finished blowing into his left hand. The hand grew to the size of a bowling ball. He punched the man into a tree trunk with a loud bang. Naruto's arms went back into their normal state. He fell onto his butt, breathing deeply. He cast a glance at the white-eyed girl. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked. "I'm fine," she whispered quietly. Naruto jumped and looked at the girl in the eyes. He gasped, "Hey, you're Hinata Hyuga." She blushed a deep red. Naruto. Suddenly Naruto felt a searing pain pass over his back before seeing a flash of white. He fell numbly onto the ground. "Father Naruto, save me," Hinata exclaimed. The tall white-eyed Hyuga looked down the blonde writhing on the ground. Hinata was standing defiantly in front of him. "How did he save you?" the man rumbled. "He used his bloodline ability," she said. The Ashi Hyuga picked the boy up. "Let's go, we have to take the boy to Hokage-sama." He grabbed the collar of the unconscious man against a tree and dragged him along, fighting the urge to end the man's life. The graying old man was woken up. Ashi Hyuga. He was carrying Naruto in one arm and was dragging a Kumo warrior in the other. Hinata followed timidly behind him. "Hokage-sama," Ashi greeted. Kumo attempted to take Hinata, he told the Hokage calmly. He then dropped Naruto on the couch and flicked his finger. Hinata sat beside the unconscious boy. Uzumaki defeated the man and saved Hinata. The old man sighed loudly. Hiashi watched the man rub his temple. "So do you wish action for this attempt on your daughter?" he questioned. Hiashi shook his head. "I do not wish another war, but I do want to something that me and Minato spoke of before his death." 1 year later, the blonde-haired boy was running through the street laughing loudly. "Naruto!" A Jonin ninja screamed from behind him. Naruto swung his fist, which stretched to the top of the roof. He yelled loudly, "Gum Gum grappling hook." He slung-shot himself into the air. The Jonin nin looked up and shook his head. "Naruto," he sighed. 1 year later, Naruto was bouncing through the tree line happily. His legs were stretching when he would reach a gap he could cross. His straw hat was bouncing as he jumped. His hands were bound tightly in bandages. He heard a loud crash. "Damn it, she's tougher than she looks," he heard a growl. Naruto changed his trajectory and slung-shot towards the voices. He stopped abruptly, landing on a thick tree branch. 4 men were pinning a black-haired girl with dark red eyes. Naruto eyed the red-eyed girl. His eyes filled with hearts before becoming determined as the teenagers were trying to tug off her suit. "Hey, stop it now," Naruto ordered loudly. The 4 men whipped around and nearly burst out laughing. A short blonde-haired boy, wearing a worn-out straw hat, he had a bright orange vest, which showed his skinny arms. His deep blue pants shorts were blowing in the wind. The largest man laughed. "And who are you supposed to be?" he asked jokingly. Naruto put his hands on his hips and exclaimed, "I am Naruto Uzumaki, and I am going to become the greatest Hokage." The 4 looked at each other and said, "Didn't." Naruto froze up. He didn't realize that he could be outclassed. Naruto swung his fist lightning fast, slowing down their assault on him. He jumped into the air, stretching his legs. The 4 stopped and watched with awe as he sailed through the air. He grabbed onto the woman's hip and pulled her into him. He jaggedly moved forward. He suddenly a thin wire wrapped itself around his leg. "Oh man," he yelled as the 2 crashed into the ground. The teenage girl jumped and quick attack. "Now I have them in a ninjutsu," she ordered quickly. Naruto reacted immediately. He blew into both his thumbs and roared, "Gum Gum Cannonball." The 4 thugs' eyes whitened as the large fists slammed into the center of their bellies. The group flew away from Naruto. "Come on," Naruto called out. The 4 were rolling on the ground. Suddenly a puff of smoke filled up the clearing. The thugs were replaced as silver-haired man. A man with a bowl cut, a purple-haired teen, and a black-haired man with a wild beard. "Holy crap, Kakashi, how did such a scrawny pack that much of punch?" the purple-haired girl gasped loudly. The silver-haired man rubbed the bright red mark in the center of his chest. "I don't know," he grunted. The bowl-cut man jumped up and took a valiant stance. "Naruto-kun's youthfulness sears bright like our sun," he roared. "Shut a guy," his 3 comrades groaned. Naruto was jogging next to the female. She suddenly turned. "I'm Kurenai Yuhi," she introduced herself. "So what was that with your legs?" she asked finally as they continued down the path. Naruto let out a loud laugh and jumped in front of her. He smiled and tugged his cheek, stretching it much farther than naturally possible. "I'm the Konoha Rubber Man," came his garbled voice. Kurenai laughed slightly as the boy showed off his ability. "Rubber," she laughed. Naruto nodded and vowed loudly, "Yep, and with these powers, I will be the greatest Hokage ever." He jumped up and threw his arms and legs stretching across the dirt path. Kurenai watched Naruto bound up and down the path quickly. "Maybe one day, Naruto," she told him. Naruto stopped abruptly. Tears came to his eyes. Naruto ran and jumped into the shocked ninja's arms. "No one has ever believed in my dream," he cried, hugging Kurenai tightly. He suddenly released her and said boldly, "You'll be my wife when I become the Hokage." She watched the boy disappear down the path. Kurenai sighed, "You're right." 1 year later, Naruto was standing. He did a flurry of hand signs. Clone Jutsu. A feeble, white dead-looking clone appeared beside Naruto. Iruka sighed as the students laughed. "Maybe next time, Naruto." He watched Naruto swing his fist into the wall beside the door, leaving a large dent. So much potential, he felt the dent, but needs more control. Naruto sighed as he jumped onto a rooftop and started running into village. 1 year later, Naruto was snoring. His black was bunched up. He suddenly felt a pair of hands grab him. A pair of red eyes locked with his blue ones. what are you doing? She exclaimed. Hurry awake, you need to work on your clone jutsu. Naruto glared at his self-proclaimed fiancé. Fine, he groaned, pulling himself out of her grip. She watched Naruto reach down and pull blue t-shirt from the ground and sniffed it. Does this smell? Kurenai winced. He pushed the t-shirt in her face and asked again, does this smell? Kurenai double take and exclaimed, Naruto, get your dirty shirt out of my face. Naruto threw it into the ground and walked around the dirty room. How about this t-shirt? He swung his arm and stretched it across the room into Kurenai's face. Naruto, I'm not your mother, she said, throwing the t-shirt at the blonde. Naruto sighed. Fine. He pulled on a third blue shirt and grabbed his bright orange vest. They're happy, he taunted. She was across the room, kicking close into his laundry into a pile. Do we need to go over cleanliness again, she countered. Naruto shook his head no. He then looked at the laundry. Can I use your laundry machines? He asked. He smiled and looked up and gave her a puppy dog eye. Please, Kurenai-chan, he whimpered. Kurenai hit him. Yes, but don't ever do that again, she said. Naruto jumped up and did a heel clicker. Yes. He then grabbed her wrist. Now it's time to learn the clone jutsu. Across the ninja village, an old man wearing a bright red and white suit was watching Naruto drag the Jonin across the village quickly. The group of Jonin were watching. The old man sighed. So this is why Kurenai didn't come. The Hokage couldn't help but have a small smile. Okay, begin, Kakashi, he ordered calmly. The silver-haired Jonin cleared his throat and said, Inzuka Kiba, Haruno Sakura, Ichiha Sasuke, he answered calmly. The Hokage nodded his head. Okay, I agree. The group of slowly went through the list of Genin candidates. Miles away in the forest, Naruto and Kurenai were working. Each clone looked nearly dead. Why can't I do this? He screamed. Kurenai patted him and replied, you need better chakra control. She looked at the clone before sighing. Naruto, I want to teach an extremely dangerous jutsu, she told him. Naruto jumped and looked at her and nodded hurriedly. Let's go, Kurenai-chan. Naruto watched as she moved slowly through a variation of the clone jutsu, Shadow Clone Jutsu. She winced slightly. Naruto walked around the two. What's this? He snapped loudly. It's just a clone jutsu. Suddenly the clone touched his forehead. Naruto nearly screamed. It's solid. The clone laughed and explained, the Shadow Clone Jutsu takes more chakra, which means your massive chakra well will be much more satisfied. Naruto nodded. Now copy exactly what I did, Kurenai ordered. Naruto smirked and put his hands together. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Kurenai watched the entire paddock become covered in white smoke. Hey Kurenai-chan, 100 Naruto clones, voices echoed throughout the paddock. Her eyes widened and she moved her hand from clone to clone. Naruto. She yelled and started punching the clones. Naruto dispersed the clones. Kurenai grabbed onto Naruto. What's the matter, Sensei-chan? He asked. How are you feeling? She asked desperately. Naruto pulled away and looked down. Fine, why? Naruto stuttered worriedly. She looked down in shock at the blonde Naruto. The Shadow Clone Jutsu splits equal amounts of chakra throughout all of the clones, she told Naruto, quickly walking around him. Naruto turned and said, well, I'm going for ramen. His stomach roared in agreement. Bye, Sensei-chan. Kurenai watched Naruto run down the path. After she lost view Naruto, she muttered, how much chakra does he have? That night, Naruto was sleeping soundly, the dreams of the red-eyed woman. Four shadows were watching him. The only woman in the group growled hatefully. So this is the rubber kid. She was standing over him and whispered, he doesn't look special. The six-armed boy pulled the girl away. Orochimaru-sama wants him. Suddenly the four felt a blade touch their neck. Sound in a female in the Cad mask said in shock. Grab Naruto, take him to Kurenai, she'll protect him, the Cad mask female ordered calmly. The fifth ninja grabbed Naruto, and in a swirl of leaves he disappeared. So bitch, are you going to kill us now? The female sound nin taunted. The largest of the group whipped around and threw the Anbu into the person holding his comrade with two heads. He kicked the Anbu on the holding the six-armed boy. And finally the six-armed boy sprayed a web across the room, and locked the female in the Cad mask onto the wall. Maybe next time, bitch, the female taunted before diving out the window. The four sound nin ran out of Konoha. The group was angry. Kimimura will not be happy that we failed Orochimaru-sama, the female growled boldly. We'll get the kids soon enough, the two-headed man hissed. Naruto whipped his head around as the Anbu flew from roof to roof. What? He groaned in his half-asleep state. He suddenly felt the sensation of dropping. The Anbu remained silent as B banged on a door. What's the matter? Kurenai groaned as she pulled open the door. She then caught sight of the blonde and immediately asked what happened. The Hokage will tell you tomorrow, the Anbu answered, before disappearing in a swirl of leaves. Kurenai grabbed Naruto. She threw a pillow and blanket from the closet. You know where the couch is. Good night. Naruto stumbled to the couch and crashed down. The next morning Naruto was sitting in his desk at the academy, wearing his footy pajamas and his straw hat. Iruka sighed as his eyes went over the blonde's appearance. As you know, today is your final day at the academy. Your final exam will be graded by a short written exam and a three-part Jujutsu, weapons, and ninjutsu exam, he told the class. Naruto seared through the first part of the exam, passing with a 51 on his exam. He had of course got top of the class in the Jujutsu portion of his exam, using his trademark rolling style. He once again struggled with his weapons, they were worn out and dull. He finally came to, "We've been here twice Naruto, you know what to do," Iruka told Naruto calmly. Naruto and put his hands together, sexy Iruka froze, and Naruto winced. She exclaimed. Naruto disappeared in a puffy of white smoke. Iruka prepared himself for when the smoke cleared. The smoke cleared, a perfect copy of Iruka was standing in front of original. Iruka clapped. "Good work Naruto, but I have to ask, it looked like you were going to use your sexy jutsu, why did you stop?" The brown-skinned teacher asked. Naruto shivered. "I did it in front of Kurenai-sensei. I spent the next 10 hours running from a pack of Jinjutsu-induced dogs." Iruka attempted not to laugh at Naruto's frightened expression. He said, "Okay Naruto, next up is the reason you failed the test last time, the clone jutsu." The second teacher watched in shock as the demon brat is passing his exam. Naruto began to do the hand signs for his jutsu. "Iruka-sensei, can I use in variation on the clone jutsu?" he asked. Iruka nodded, and immediately Naruto exclaimed, "Multi-shadow clone jutsu." 10 clones of Naruto appeared in front of Iruka. His jaw dropped. Iruka got up shakily. He touched the forehead of each straw hat wearing clone. "Naruto, when did you learn this?" he whispered. "Kurenai-sensei thought I might be overloading my clones with chakra, and since the shadow clone takes more chakra, she figured it would come easier for me than the regular. I personally came up with the multi-shadow clone jutsu," Naruto explained proudly. The Hokage smiled. "Teammate is complete," he whispered to himself. Iruka grinned proudly. He took one of the leaf headbands from his desk, made his way to Naruto. "Well Naruto, congratulations. Naruto, you pass." Naruto shakily took the headband. He took the worn-out straw hat from his head. He tied the headband to the base of the straw hat, and exclaimed, "I'm a Genin." He grabbed Iruka and exclaimed, "Ichiraku Ramen Yubine." Iruka sighed, "Fine tonight." He hollered jokingly, running out of the academy. "Naruto, tomorrow you'll get the team assignment," he yelled after the boy. Mizuki growled in frustration. How did he pass? Naruto was sailing towards the Hokage tower. "Lee, go get him." Naruto whipped around. 2 people in matching green jumpsuits were standing behind him, in matching poses. A strange flame seemed to burn in their eyes. "Yes, Guy-sensei," he roared loudly. The shorter green-wearing boy charged Naruto. His bowl cut glinted in the sunlight. Leaf Hurricane, the boy spun lightning fast, kicking Naruto in the belly, then with his left foot kicked Naruto in the ribs, effectively knocking him into the ground. "What's that?" Naruto yelled, jumping to his feet. Lee threw his arm in front of him, and yelled, "Our youthful fight will the stuff of legends." "What?" he questioned. But the boy rushed him. "Fine, you want to fight?" Naruto expanded his fist, and the two started trading haymakers. Guy continued to watch the two fight. Lee was kicking more often, but Naruto's durability seemed to counter the advantage. Lee smirked, as the two swung a strong hook into each other's face. Lee jumped back and laughed. "Naruto-kun, let's spar again soon." Lee then put both hands on his hip and laughed. "Our youthful taijutsu will show everyone we're truly splendid ninja." Naruto sighed. "Okay, whatever." Naruto immediately realized he said something wrong, as the fire lit in Guy and Lee's eyes. "Lee, his cool attitude is like my eternal rival Kakashi." "Yes, Guy-sensei," Lee exclaimed. "Lee, we found you an eternal rival." "Yes, Naruto-kun is truly my eternal rival," Lee roared. "If I do not beat you in our next spar, I'll run on my hands around Konoha 50 times. Lee got into his fighting stance, putting his left hand in front of his body. Naruto whipped around and ran as the green-clad Genin charged. "I just wanted to see the old man," he screamed. Kurenai was reading her Genin team. "Why did I get Naruto?" The Hokage's eyebrow went up. "I thought you would want the blonde ball of energy," he stated. "Nobody wanted in Kurenai, guess." The old man sighed loudly. "Yes, if only they saw the potential he has." She shook her head. "Well, his skill set doesn't suit me. He's clearly a taijutsu user," she told him. "I've already spoken to my guy, and he agreed to train him. If Kurenai cut in, if he passes his test." Suddenly Naruto flew into the office pouring sweat. "Get them, old man," Naruto exclaimed. Lee bowed lowly. Sweating slightly, Naruto jumped behind Kurenai and shoved her. "Take him out with some of that Jinjutsu," Naruto ordered. "No, Naruto," she stated calmly. "Come on, you're my wife-to-be," and she began. That was cut off as Guy charged in and roared joyously. "Kurenai-chan, you're getting married, congratulations. I must say I never thought that Naruto-kun would unthaw you." Kurenai was getting more and more irritated as Guy continued on his speech. "Naruto-kun," she whispered too calmly. Naruto jumped away from her as a dark horse surrounded her. "Protect me, old man," Naruto yelled. He dove over the desk, but the woman grabbed the back of his orange vest. The Hokage watched Kurenai drag Naruto out of his office, as the boy yelled, "Don't let her take me." The two self-proclaimed green beasts watched in shock. "I'll help you, my eternal rival," Lee hollered, and charged out of the door. "No, Lee Kun," Guy chased after Lee. The Hokage rubbed his temple, and muttered, "How in the world did I end up with the world's most unprofessional?" The next morning Naruto was sitting in the academy classroom. His face was bruised slightly. The group of Genin talked loudly. Iruka yelled, "Okay, now here are your team assignments." He began reading up, until he called out, "Teammate, Hinata Hyuga, Shino Apurum, Naruto Uzumaki." Your Jonin instructor will be Kurenai Yuhi. He looked down, meter in training ground 13. Naruto looked at the blue-haired girl he saved years ago. She wore a thick cream sweater and blue shorts. She blushed faintly as she locked eyes. She wore the leaf hat band around her neck. The white boy wore black sunglasses and a silver sweater and a high collar that cut off half of his face. He nodded slightly at Naruto. Okay, goodbye, and good luck. Iruka dismissed the class. Naruto ran and grabbed Shino and Hinata and ran towards the thick forest. They flew across the roofs, dragging the two. Naruto, let me go, Shino said in monotone. Fine, he released the boy, and the two sailed across the gap between buildings. Hinata was ruby and unable to talk. Naruto smiled as they sailed into the tree. Keep up, bug boy, Naruto exclaimed. Shino grumbled slightly as the blonde continued on. They finally came to a heavily forested area. Hello, teammate. Hinata and Shino bowed at the red-eyed woman. Sensei-chan, Naruto greeted. She glared slightly, before sighing, and starting to explain, we are teammate using the Hyuga Byakugan, and Abiram bugs who will specialize in tracking. Naruto threw his arm up and asked, then why am I on this team? I can't track at all. His two teammates nodded in agreement. The Hokage felt we needed a jutsu user to balance out our team, Kurenai answered calmly. You'll eventually be our main head-on battler, she added. Naruto smirked and expanded his fist, that's awesome. But first you'll have to pass a test of my own. Suddenly a smoke bomb flew down. Damn it, Anko, too soon, Kurenai coughed loudly. Purple-haired woman, in a beige trench coat, wearing a mesh t-shirt, appeared in front of the three Genin. You have to catch us, and take these. She held 6 silver bells. The group nodded. Good, at least they're not stupid. Shen then looked at Naruto and added, well, 2 out of 3 aren't stupid. She then whipped a black ball into the ground. The group became covered in black smoke. Naruto sat on the ground, Hinata and Shino followed. So what's the plan? Naruto questioned the two. Shino answered calmly, well, we should go after that Anko lady first. Why? Hinata stuttered quietly. Naruto knows tons about Kurenai-sensei, so he can probably help us track Kurenai easily, Shino answered coldly. Naruto nodded in agreement. Okay, let's go. The three were walking, moving silently across the roofs. They spent most of the morning looking for the purple-haired Jonin. They finally found her sitting in a dingy little bar eating dango and drinking. So I'll attack openly, then you and Hinata attack while her guard's down. Okay, Naruto whispered and dove off the roof. He landed on in front of the door. Naruto pulled out a kunai. Anko was laughing as she finished her second to last dango. She was about to bite on her last dango when suddenly a blade flew and destroyed Dumpling. Her eyes widened in fury. The patrons of the bar moved to the wall in unison. Who did that? She roared loudly. I did, Naruto called out loudly. Anko whipped her head around. Her eyes blazed in anger. I'm going to strangle you, she screamed and charged at the blonde. Naruto slammed the bar door, but was too slow as the door flew off its hinges and slammed into him. The street went silent as the purple-haired woman charged at Naruto. Gum gum, rapid fire, Naruto yelled, swinging his fist. Anko dodged the first fist and blurred forward and punched him in the face. Naruto bounced down the street. That was my last dango, she roared loudly. She grabbed Naruto and started throttling the Genin. Naruto smiled broadly. Why are you smiling? She growled. She suddenly heard a dinging come from behind her. I was only the distraction, he stated. Fine, you beat me. She put the blonde on his feet before giving him a vicious left hook. You owe me, dango. Naruto rubbed his jaw. He winced, holding his jaw. Good work, guys, he muttered. That woman is nuts, he added. Hinata stuttered. Where do you think Kurenai-sensei would be, Naruto-kun? Naruto thought, before smiling. I know. He then took off. When we attack her, we can't let her focus for even a split second. She's a Jinjutsu user. So Hinata, keep those eyes on. Hinata nodded. Okay, let's go. Naruto jumped from the top of a tree and landed in front of Kurenai-sensei-chan. He greeted calmly. Where's the rest of the team? She asked calmly. They were too slow, Naruto answered, putting his hands in front of his face. Do you really think you can beat me one-on-one? Kurenai asked calmly. Naruto swung his fist. His arms became a blur as he swung haymakers at the Jinjutsu nin. She smiled. This was the first time in months she got to see him use his rubber abilities. He jumped up and kicked her in the belly. She grabbed his feet. She was about to spin his feet, but suddenly the shot into her stomach and sent her sliding into a thick tree. She growled in frustration at the blonde holding her pinned firmly. She grabbed Naruto's foot and pushed firmly. Naruto slammed head first into the ground. Naruto rolled and yelled, gum gum bind. He jumped into her, wrapped his rubber body around the woman's arms and legs. Now Hinata, Shino. Kurenai's eyes went wide. She heard 2 thumps behind. The two plucked the bells from her hip. She suddenly disappeared, being replaced by a log. You could have escaped, Naruto exclaimed loudly. She nodded yes, but and I also knew Hinata and Shino were waiting in the sidelines, she told the three. Good work, you used your skills and overcame 2 Jonin. Welcome to the ninja world, teammate. Naruto smiled and grabbed Hinata and Kurenai. Chiraka Ramen, Sensei-chan is buying. That's not happening, Naruto. Kurenai laughed as he dragged the two. Shino followed slowly behind them. Chapter 2. The ranked mission. Naruto glared as they picked up garbage. We're supposed to be ninja. he exclaimed loudly. Shino nodded slightly in agreement. How is this training us in using our abilities of old? He yelled loudly. They went from garbage to running in and out of a market, helping an old lady with her groceries. This is retarded, Naruto whined loudly. Their next mission was cleaning an attic for the Inuzuka clan member Sensei. Can't we get a real mission? Naruto charged into the Hokage's office. Kurenai chased after him. Hey old man, we want a real mission. No more these cleaning tasks bullcrap, Naruto yelled. The Hokage sighed loudly. I'm sorry, but you're fresh out of the academy team. I'm sorry, Hokage-sama. Kurenai apologized quickly for the blonde's actions. Come on old man, please, I'm sick these menial tasks. He then grabbed Shino and Hinata, and they are too, right? Shino nodded slightly, and Hinata twiddled her thumbs. See, you're wasting our talents. The Hokage watched Naruto glare at him. Iruka was shaking his head. Fine, Naruto-san. What the Jonin and Chunin exclaimed. It just so happens we have a C-rank escort mission. I think Kurenai alone can handle it. Naruto jumped up and punched the air excitedly. Yes, oh yeah, he exclaimed. Tazuna-san, enter, Iruka called out. This is Tazuna, the bridge builder. Your mission is simple, protect him while he finishes building his bridge that will connect the land of waves to the mainland. An old man wearing a brown suit and a large rice hat. So these are the ninja that are going to protect me. His eyes swept over them. A blind girl, a sickly looking boy, and a shorty farm boy. Naruto glared and charged at him. I'm going to punch him out, Naruto yelled. Shino grabbed one of Naruto's arm, and Kurenai grabbed Naruto's neck. Naruto, we don't punch out the client, she told him calmly. Naruto huffed loudly. He called me short. Kurenai hit him firmly. Keep quiet, you're lucky we're even getting in C-rank mission. She looked at the three. Genin, okay, meet at the front gate in 2 hours. The three ran out of the room. Are you sure that your team can handle this mission? Iruka asked as soon as Naruto disappeared. They'll be fine, Kurenai answered calmly. The old Hokage smiled. And how is the team? Kurenai thought, well, we've been working. We set Naruto up with his strength and speed. But having Naruto punch through every is only going to get Naruto killed. She winced at the thought. I've been working with Hinata, but I can't get through her shell. She has so much potential. She looked out the window. She's a natural, I can see it when I can get her to spar. She then turned and followed after her team. Iruka sighed. When are you planning on telling Naruto, Hokage-sama? The Hokage looked at the only person beside himself and Kurenai that treated Naruto properly. Soon, he needs to know about the BLPA, he muttered. Naruto sailed into his apartment. He grabbed 3 blue t-shirts and shorts, and 5 bright orange vests, and started cooking instant ramen. Hinata quietly packed her bag. Her mind went to the blonde. She remembered the day he saved her. The day she knew she found her love. Then to her quiet teammate, and the sensei that seemed to gain a new personality when around Naruto. Shino packed, his mother watching him. She sighed and asked, how long will you be gone? A week. He thought about the hyper-blonde rubber boy, that as much as Shino hated admitting, was probably going to be his best friend. He then changed thoughts to the Hyuga heirs. He could see that she had strength beyond what she uses. And finally came to the Jinjutsu mistress. She was a good teacher who only added to what the Abiram taught. And finally he worried slightly about the clear triangle that was forming in between Naruto, Kurenai-sensei, and Hinata. Everybody knew that Naruto claimed Kurenai-sensei to be his future wife. And for her part kept her feelings for the young blonde in check, behind a veil of older sister relationship. But Shino could see the faint smile that Kurenai got whenever Naruto freaked out, or used his gum-gum bloodline. Then there was Hinata, but once again everybody knew that she had bound herself to getting the blonde-headed idiot. Shino shook his head and thought this wasn't going to end well. Kurenai. The Jonin was sealing everything she needed for her team's mission. She heard a rustle come from behind her. Hey Kurenai-chan, Enko groaned loudly. Hungover Kurenai grunted. Enko glared. Hey, just because you have your precious Naruto-kun to stay sober for, Enko taunted jokingly, doesn't mean everybody have to stay sober. She then fiddled with a photo of Naruto, herself, Kurenai. It was taken when Naruto was 10, herself, and Naruto were mid-yell. Naruto had his fist twice its normal size. And she was choking him. Kurenai was shoving herself in between the two, and had an annoyed look on her face. Asuma Saratobi had taken the picture, and jokingly told the three they would be happy he took it one day. Kurenai made her way towards the door shaking her head. Don't get us evicted while I'm gone, she warned. Hinata was waiting silently beside Tazuna. He was the first to speak. So how strong is your team? Hinata got a thoughtful look. I don't know, I guess we're pretty strong. Tazuna got a frightened look at the young Hyuga girl's insecurity. Suddenly they heard a loud voice exclaim, Naruto, go take it back, you can live without ramen for a couple of days. Naruto ran in carrying a large basket on his back. Kurenai was chasing after him. He whipped around and hollered, no, I can't. Shino moved towards the group silently. It's not like you'll ever be carrying it. Kurenai growled in frustration. She tapped her foot. The blonde got more and more nervous as she tapped her foot loudly. Fine, he sighed loudly. Kurenai grabbed him. We'll begin moving. Travel straight down this road, she told Naruto, pointing down the dirt path. Naruto handed her his backpack. I'll catch up, he called as he moved back into the village. Shino, send your bugs ahead, Kurenai ordered, as they began down the dirt path. Shino sent out 10 bugs that flew ahead of them. Hinata, get ready to use your Byakugan. Hinata nodded. Tazuna, stayed behind us. The old bridge builder nodded. They traveled in silence for 10 minutes. Kurenai's eyes were traveling along the trees. Finally, after 2 hours, Kurenai stopped abruptly. Hinata-chan, she eyed a large deep blue puddle. Yes, sensei, Hinata replied quietly. When was the last time you trained? Immediately 2 men shot out of the puddle, each wore a single claw gauntlet. They flew towards the ninja. Kurenai easily kicked the 2 missing nin back. She charged the man, but he dodged to the side, and made a beeline straight for Hinata. Look out. Kurenai exclaimed, as the second clawed ninja slashed. Hinata froze in fear as the clawed man grew closer. Shino slid in front of her. But before the 2 could react, they felt a large fist blow beside their face. Gum Gum Cannon. The ninja had no time to react as the fist slammed into his face. Sending him flying away, he rolled away from the 2 shocked Genin. Naruto jumped over the 3. Gum Gum grappling hook. The second ninja whipped his head around, just in time to feel his air supply being cut off from the rubber arm binding his neck. Gum Gum Cannon. He dragged the nearly unconscious nin into the air. The clawed ninja seen a flash of light. The clawed ninja rolled away. Naruto has 3 teammates set in surprise. Kurenai shifted her vision towards Tazuna. Tazuna-san, we were hired to defend you from bandits, and that sword. She then kicked the barely conscious ninja in the face. You never said anything about enemy ninja, which changes this from a C-rank mission to an B-rank mission. Kurenai snapped. She looked at Naruto, who was tied up the 2 enemy ninja. My team can't handle this. Naruto whipped around. What, of course we can handle this mission, Naruto exclaimed. I didn't even break a sweat taking these 2 down, Naruto exclaimed, pointing his thumb at the 2. Shino sat down against a tree, and Hinata was watching the 2 argue, back and forth. He caught them off guard. Naruto-san, she snapped, putting an emphasis on the san. The 2 continued for 10 minutes, before Tazuna cleared his throat. Naruto and Kurenai stopped and looked at the bridge builder. I am truly sorry I lied, but the Land of Waves is an extremely poor country run by the corrupt Gato. The shipping tycoon. Hinata gasped quietly. Yes, I am working on the bridge to free my village from Gato's control. But all I can afford is a C-rank mission, he told the group. Kurenai sighed. We'll try to help you, but the minute I feel like my team is at risk, we're leaving. Naruto jumped up down. Shino remained silent, and Hinata shivered slightly. Tazuna smiled. Thank you, he whispered. Kurenai looked at the 2 and whispered, the demon brothers. She did a series of hand signs. A hawk appeared in front of her. She scribbled down a quick letter and handed it to the bird. I sent the letter to have these 2 picked up. She began down the road. Shino, your bugs. Naruto sent a few shadow clones forward. Both teams nodded. Naruto sent 10 clone up the road, and Shino sent a stream of bugs following after them. Miles away, a man with gray skin was laying across a couch, a large sword beside him. The girl in a green outfit was sitting in a chair beside him. The door creaked open. The man growled. Those idiot demon brothers failed. The short gray-haired man nodded. I should have went to begin with. Come hack you. Yes, Zabuza. Some of the girls followed after the tall ninja. Teammate had stopped for the night. A fire roared. Naruto was laying spread eagle on his sleeping bag. Shino was half asleep on his right side, Tazuna on his left. Hinata and Kurenai were asleep on the opposite side of the fire. Naruto was snoring slightly. Hinata was looking up into the night sky, watching the smoke from the fire create spiral in the air. She rolled a bit. Kurenai was doing the same. Hinata took 3 small gulps of air before asking, why is Naruto on our team? Kurenai turned and looked at the wide-eyed team. I mean, Shino and myself can both follow easily with my Byakugan and his bugs. But Naruto seems to be more suited to a strike team rather than tracking, she muttered. I thought Shino was the only one who noticed. Of course you know everything about Naruto, she stated suggestively, winking. Causing the Hyuga to turn ruby red. Nobody wanted him, she answered truthfully. What? Hinata snapped. Naruto's the greatest. How can nobody want him? She asked. Kurenai grinned at the girl before her lips turned down. He was dead last, and nobody wanted a ninja who only excelled in Taijutsu, Kurenai explained. Hinata cast a glance at the bond. He's such a hard worker, nothing comes naturally, but he continues to press on, getting stronger and stronger. It makes me want to be better than I am, she admitted near silently. Kurenai agreed silently, I know. The next morning Naruto was awake early. He was sending his arms across road, leaving a large crack in the thick tree trunk. Naruto, Shino greeted, pulling on his dark black glasses. Oh hey Shino, you want to do some training before we get moving? Naruto asked. No, let's go get something to eat. He disappeared into the tree line. Naruto jumped up and chased after the bug ninja. Kurenai woke shortly afterwards. She noticed the 2 empty sleeping bags. She jumped up when she heard an angry Shino growl. Let it go, Naruto. Naruto replied instantly. No, you said we needed food. Kurenai heard a loud bleeding sound. What did you do? Kurenai muttered. She watched Shino move silently from the tree line. Then loud thrashing and grunting. Naruto suddenly walked out of the trees dragging a large deer. Sensei-chan, get a knife, he exclaimed. The deer thrashed wildly. Shino shook his head guiltily. I thought Naruto would understand sarcasm. Shino apologized. Release him, Kurenai muttered. But, release. But, Her voice became deadly calm. Naruto released the deer, it rolled along the ground. Before getting to its feet and bounding into the forest, Kurenai watched Naruto sigh and sit where the deer ran. Goodbye breakfast. Kurenai dug into her bag. Okay, we'll eat, then get moving. The group ate quickly before they started walking down the road. How long before we get to the land of waves? Shino asked. We'll reach the docks before nightfall, Tazuna answered. Naruto's eyes went wide, and he stuttered, we'll have to get on a boat. Of course, Tazuna answered calmly. Naruto shivered and muttered, I hate water. The group moved quickly down the road. They finally reached the dock as the sun fell. They all froze as a thick fog came over them. Kurenai looked around. She whispered, keep Tazuna safe, Naruto, when there's an opening attack. The Genjutsu mistress of Konoha and her Genin team. Suddenly Kurenai dropped down, dragging Hinata and Tazuna with her. Naruto and Shino mimicked as a large blade flew over their heads. Quick reflexes, the man taunted from the hilt of the blade. Zabuza Mamachi, Kurenai growled. Naruto stood up, and before he could react, Zabuza was in front of him. He grabbed the short blonde's throat. Teammate froze up. Zabuza looked up and down the blonde. Blonde hair, straw hat, orange. He then threw Naruto away from teammate. You know, rubber boy, you never should have left any bandits alive. Kurenai threw a kunai before the man could reach Naruto. The blade went straight through the man, splashing Naruto with a small wave of water. Naruto, get back here, Kurenai exclaimed. I'll get extra for killing the Genjutsu mistress, the rubber boy, and get it by Akugan, Zabuza taunted. Naruto and Kurenai locked eyes. They both charged towards the missing nin. Naruto jumped into the air and exclaimed, eat the snow brows. Gum gum, rapid fire. The Jonin easily avoided the blur of fists. Kurenai slid behind Zabuza. She tore out a kunai and slashed at the man. Zabuza reacted lightning fast. He grabbed Naruto's arm and spun. He dragged Naruto with him. Kurenai stopped abruptly. The blade was against the top of Naruto's forehead. Whoa, whose side are you on? Naruto exclaimed. Zabuza smirked, and with one hand he grabbed the hilt of his sword, decapitating carving slash. The two spun. Naruto yelled as they blurred. Kurenai did a backflip, dodging the large blade. Naruto punched the ground and yelled, gum gum, buying. Zabuza stopped spinning before he tied himself up. He released the boy and kicked him in the gut. Naruto rolled against the ground. He moaned, that didn't work well. Kurenai pulled Naruto to his feet. This isn't good, he's a Kenjutsu and Taijutsu expert, she told Naruto. So he's better than me, Naruto whispered. Zabuza put the blade on his shoulder. Yeah, Naruto, your rubber ability usually puts you at an advantage, but not against the demon of the mist, Kurenai replied calmly. If we survive this fight, we'll need support, she whispered. Hinata and Shino watched it too. Naruto's hands increased in size, and Kurenai took a support stance behind Naruto. Gum gum, fleet cannon. Zabuza slid, dodging the large fist. The trees behind him shattered. Zabuza stabbed the sword in the ground. Naruto continued to bash at the large sword. Now Sensei Kurenai ran along the side of Naruto's fist. She stopped beside Zabuza. The tree captured death. Zabuza froze as he felt large tree branches pin the man. Naruto stopped and ran towards the two. Zabuza smiled at as Naruto slid on his right, gum gum. But he was caught off by Zabuza. Too close, he roared. The large sword slashed from the top right side of Naruto's body to the bottom left hip. No, the entire group exclaimed as Naruto flew away from the Jonin. He crashed into the ground, bleeding profusely. Stop the bleeding, Kurenai ordered Naruto's fellow Genin. Zabuza forced the Genjutsu user away from her Genin, with powerful slashes from his sword. Zabuza suddenly swung the blade into the air. He grabbed the top of Kurenai's bandages and brought the sword down. Zabuza smirked. Her head was in the hole on the top of the blade, decapitating. Naruto's eyes snapped open. He jumped up and yelled. Multi-Shadow Clone Jutsu turned just in time to feel the first fist hit. Combination Shadow Clone, Gum Gum, Wall of Pain. The 100 Shadow Clone punched and kicked, blowing the man away from Kurenai. Zabuza's back smashed into a tree. Naruto and his clones beat the man for a minute before Naruto gasped loudly, and the clones popped. Zabuza got to his feet. His muscles and bones roared in protest. Is it a rubber boy? He grabbed the sword from around Kurenai's neck. Your team is not suited to fighting me, he taunted. Genjutsu, Taijutsu, and 2 trackers, he growled loudly. Kurenai pulled a blade from her pouch. Zabuza swung the blade into the air. Kurenai was about to throw the kunai knife when 2 thin needles flew from the tree line and embedded themselves in the back of Zabuza's neck. All the eyes went to a boy wearing a green outfit and wooden sandals. He had a white mask with a water country mark on the forehead. A red wave was where the mouth was on the face. Thank you, the man whispered. I've been hunting Zabuza for months. He looked over to Naruto. You're truly lucky, Genin. Zabuza didn't see you as a threat. Kurenai ran to the bleeding Genin. Her hands started to glow green. The man jumped down and grabbed onto the man's stomach and hoisted him onto his shoulder. My cage will be happy I finally retrieved the carving knife, was the last thing he said before disappearing. The large gash closed itself slowly. Naruto, you idiot, she growled as she worked across his stomach. When the entire gash was she wrapped the dark pink scar in bandages. Tazuna grabbed her shoulder, he said, let's go, my daughter owns a house Naruto can rest in. Kurenai nodded, and picked up the blonde. Let's go. Naruto looked up weakly, his eyes were glassy. Don't worry Sensei-chan, I'm fine. Chapter 3. Naruto vs. Zabuza. Naruto groaned loudly, rubbing his burning chest. He cracked his eyes open. He was in simple room with cream-colored walls. Hinata, Kurenai, and Shino's sleeping bags were on the floor beside the bed. He stumbled up, his muscles felt like they were weighed down, as he moved slowly towards the door. His hand moved shakily towards the door, when it suddenly cracked open. Oh, you're awake, that's good. Hinata-chan, and Kurenai-chan will be happy, a woman with pitch black hair said happily. I'm sorry, but who are you? Naruto questioned. Oh, you're sorry, I'm Tsunami. I'm Tazuna's daughter. She put her hand out. So you're the old fart's daughter. He shook her hand. I'm Naruto. He winced and grabbed at the scar. Kurenai told me that you should be careful. She's not a metnin, and that you're lucky that the doctor didn't have reopened the gash. Tsunami died. Naruto nodded, and pulled the bandages on his chest. The scar on his chest had lightened from when Kurenai had first healed it, but it was still a pink against his chest. Naruto heard his stomach roar. Tsunami smiled. Come on, I'll get you something to eat. Naruto followed her down the hall. Naruto froze. He seemed blurred green. My eternal rival, your youthfulness has awakened you. Naruto yelled as the boy hugged. Lee, my chest. Naruto exclaimed loudly. Lee jumped back, and bowed his head. I am truly sorry, Naruto-kun, he said. Wait, Lee, what are you doing here? Naruto asked. I sent for Baka, Kurenai said. Naruto shivered as the woman ran her finger up the bright pink scar. Okay, how does your chest feel? Great, Naruto sighed contentedly. Kurenai tore her fingertips from the scar, as if he had burned her. I mean, it aches, and burns, nothing serious. I'm sure it will be better soon enough, Naruto told Kurenai, his ears tinted pink. She nodded. Well, I'm taking Hinata and Shino to train. I and Iji are going to watch Tazuna while he works on the bridge. She turned, and cast one last glance at Naruto. You should rest, Lee, and Tenten are going to protect the house, she added. Naruto sighed, and followed after his sensei. Naruto watched the older green-clad nin walk out, followed shortly by a cold-looking Hyuga. Naruto sat at the kitchen table. The constant pain in his chest was the constant reminder of his battle with Zabuza. Soon, Kurenai, Shino, and Hinata left. Naruto ate slowly. He noticed the female watching him. What? He asked with a mouthful of food. You really saw the decapitating carving knife, she stuttered. Well, yeah, he said after swallowing food. She jumped over the table, and was looking at the scar. So clean, so straight, not a single jagged mark, she whispered. Naruto cast a glance back at Lee. He was struggling not to scream. The blade must have been beautiful, and razor-sharp. Tenten sighed loudly. Yeah, well, I'm busy trying to avoid getting cut up, Naruto stated. Tenten smacked her forehead, and blushed. Oh, sorry, Naruto, it's just I love a good weapon, she muttered. Naruto laughed. No problem. Sorry, I'm Lee, and you know who I am. But who are you? Tenten, she replied. Naruto ate the last bit of food, before saying, I'm going back to bed. 2 days later. Naruto walked out of the house. The village around him was nearly dead. The buildings were faded. He caught sight of a few homeless people. The pain in his chest had reduced but was still there. He walked in the forest. The sun was pouring warmth into his body. Seeing thick grass, Naruto lied down. Naruto sighed loudly. This sucks. My teammates are working hard, and all I can do is lie down. He closed his eyes, and let sleep take him. It felt like a split second had passed when he heard hello. Naruto's eyes snapped open. A pretty girl was standing over him, as basket at her side. She wore a light pink kimono, and had a faint smile on her lips. Hi, Naruto groaned. She kneeled down, and felt the scar. That's a nasty scar you have, she whispered. Yeah, I got it protecting somebody, Naruto told the girl. Really? Were you protecting somebody you cared for, she asked. Yeah, I was protecting my future wife, Naruto answered. Oh, you were really? So she must be extremely precious to you, the girl analyzed correctly. Yes, Kurenai-chan is the first person to believe in my goal, Naruto stated. Naruto watched the girl begin to dig into her basket, as she replied, what's your goal? She began crushing a flower, as the blonde told her, I'm going to be the greatest Hokage. She looked up, and slithered some of the flower incense on her fingers. So you're a ninja, she stated, rubbing her fingers slowly along the scar. Naruto sighed loudly, as the pain became less. He nodded. Yeah. She smiled, and said, so what's your ninja? My what? What drives you to become a better ninja? She explained. I don't know, Naruto muttered. The girl stood up, and asked, can you help find more of these flowers? I need them for a friend of mine. Naruto grinned broadly. Yeah, sure thing. He ran deeper into woods, the team following Naruto. The next couple of hours Naruto spent in the forest picking pure white flowers from the ground. The girl remained silent for a majority of the time. Hinata and Shino were sitting in the center of a small pond. Okay, after this we need to work on Taijutsu. Both nodded, knowing this had to do with Naruto. Abiram fighting style, and gently fist, should be more than enough, she told the two. To not get Naruto killed, the two added in their minds. Can I spar with them? Kurenai watched the blonde walk into the paddock. You have no idea how much I've missed training, Naruto sighed. Kurenai nodded at the loud blonde. Well, before you can do that, let's work on your horrendous chakra control. Naruto sighed loudly. What do I have to do? Kurenai laughed. This she ran at a tree and started running up it. She stabbed a kunai into the tree and did a backflip. She landed beside Naruto. Reach using chakra to stick to the tree, she told him. Naruto nodded and ran at the tree. I'll do it in one try. He took 2 steps. Before he stopped abruptly, he dropped down. Okay, maybe not, he joked. He charged towards the tree again. After 15 minutes, Kurenai said, Hinata, Shino, let's go. Naruto, when you've reached kunai, come and find us. Naruto nodded as he jumped off the tree. Naruto worked into the night. Each time he ran up the tree, he seemed to get closer and closer to the kunai. Sweat was pouring down his brow as he ran up the side of the tree. Naruto's fingers grazed the hilt of the blade before he waved his hands wildly and fell. He groaned loudly and yelled loudly, I was so close. He took off his straw hat and looked down. He thought of the previous wear, and he had overcome stronger enemies. He slid the hat back on and breathed deeply. Before running at the tree, he sailed up the tree confidently. Luffy beats stronger opponents. I will never be as strong as him, he then yelled. If I can't do this. He snatched the kunai off the tree. Wonder how Naruto's doing, Kurenai whispered. His youthful fire burns bright. I'm certain he'll return soon, Guy stated confidently. Suddenly a kunai knife landed in between. Naruto was grinning, hanging upside down, smiling brightly at them. Miss V wifey, he taunted. He dropped from the tree and landed with a loud thud. He took 2 steps before falling down. Both Jonin ran to the blonde. Chakra exhaustion, Kurenai gasped. Guy picked him up, and the two walked back into the house. Guy took Naruto into the room. Hinata and Shino cast a glance towards their teammate. Kurenai cleared her throat. Nichi, Tenzin, Lee, Hinata, and Shino looked at her. Okay, with Naruto back at full power, Nichi scoffed, and Kurenai could have sworn she heard the Hyuga say, once a failure, always a failure. She sighed and continued, we'll have to prepare for Zabuza. Shino suddenly said, I thought that Zabuza is dead. Kurenai growled lowly, I discussed it with Guy, and we're almost certain that the Hunter Nin was not a legitimate Hunter Nin. The group was silent, and she said, we'll have to prepare for the worst. If that Hunter Nin is truly a false, and is working with Zabuza, then we'll be facing a second Jonin level Nin. They all nodded their heads. You all will protect Suzuna, and keep him safe with everything you got. While myself and Guy take the offense against them, they nodded again. Lee, tomorrow take Naruto and begin training with him. Yes, Kurenai-sensei, Lee exclaimed. We'll work day and night, blood, sweat and tears will be shed. Our youthfulness will amaze you all. He exclaimed. He'll be fine by tomorrow, Guy told the group as he walked into the room. Naruto's eyes cracked open, the sun was blinded him. Lee gave out a loud joyous laugh. Naruto-kun, it is time to begin training, he roared loudly. Before Naruto could react, Lee grabbed his shoulder and raced out of the building. Naruto's frog sleeping cap fell onto the ground behind. What the Naruto exclaimed as they raced along, his feet burning protest. Lee, what are you doing? Kurenai-sensei told me to begin our training, Lee roared as they raced into the woods. Lee stopped abruptly, causing Naruto fall into a heap of heavily breathing mass. Let us begin 500 push-ups, Lee said loudly. What? Begin? And if you cannot do 500 push-ups, we'll do 35 laps around the village. What? Exclaimed the barefoot Naruto. Lee clapped Naruto on the back, forcing Naruto onto the ground. Naruto watched the green-clad ninjas started doing a push-ups at a lightning-fast pace. Naruto followed suit. By the end of the day, the smiling Rock Lee and sweaty Naruto walked in Tsunami's house. Naruto groaned in pain. Lee clapped him on the back and said, I am surprised. You Naruto Uzumaki truly have the fires of youth. I flew into the room. Lee, Naruto. He roared, picking up the two. My youthful students, how did your first day of training go? Great, Guy-sensei. Naruto's flames of youth burned brighter than our own. I need to sleep, Naruto groaned loudly. The two slapped his back. Naruto muttered in protest. He slowly went through the door and crashed into the bed. 1 week later, Naruto was pouring sweat. His body ached, sitting in the dirt. The paddock Lee and himself used for the week was destroyed. The trees were splintered messes. Naruto and Lee's strength. The ground had large deep gashes from Naruto's gum-gum, and the small pond beside them was nearly empty. All the drinkable water was drained by the two. Lee was smiling broadly. It has been a long time anybody besides Guy-sensei and Ichi-san could spar with me. Lee sighed loudly, laying on the ground. Thanks to my gum-gum, Naruto grunted. Both boys closed their eyes and let darkness take them. The rest of the ninja were on the bridge. Nichi was sitting against the I-beams, Shino sitting a couple feet away. Tenten and Hinata were sitting on the guardrails beside Tazuna, who was loudly arguing with one of his workers. I'm sorry, Tazuna, I can't continue working. Gato's men are starting to beat up the workers' family. Well, once we finish this bridge, we take out all of Gato's business, Tazuna countered. The man stopped mid-step as a deep fog surrounded the bridge. Crap, Kurenai whispered. Hinata, Nichi both Hyuga nodded. The veins on the side of their faces grew. Before she could react, the large blade wielder appeared in front of her and started choking her. Where is the rubber boy? He growled in frustration. Why? She coughed. One vengeance on the Genin, the BD, she growled. Zabuza punched the Kurenai in the gut. She spit up some blood. Haku, take care of the rest. Suddenly the hunter Nin appeared from the mist, and nodded. He disappeared. Both Byakugan users froze as he went straight for Shino. He kneed in the gut, and threw him directly at Niji. He blurred, and grabbed Tenten, and threw her into the bridge. Hinata swung her fist towards the boy. But he disappeared. He reappeared behind Hinata and threw her into Tenten. The two male genin ran to their female teammates. The masked boy stopped, and quickly did a series of hand signs. Ninja art ice dome too. Before any genin could react, a thick ice dome wrapped around them. Leaf Hurricane Haku whipped around. Guy's foot collided with his chest. He slid away from the genin. Impressive speed the green beast complimented. Yorsa he countered in monotone, before once again doing a series of hand signs. Ninja Arc crystallized cell. Suddenly 300 pillars of ice shot out of the bridge. Guy jumped into the air, but before he could escape the ceiling formed. Now tell me, where is the rubber boy? Naruto's eyes popped open. Something's wrong, he muttered to himself. Lee Naruto grunted, shoving Lee. Lee groaned and turned his head towards Naruto. Yeah, he yawned. Let's go. Naruto ran towards the village. The two moved quickly into the village. Both slid to a stop as they heard a loud scream. Both whipped their heads. That sounds like. They'll all protect them, Lee stated. Naruto nodded and turned towards the bridge and ran. Lee looked. The two men with large swords were holding tsunami. Inari was yelling loudly at them. Lee tore the weights off his shins and disappeared. Please, I'll do anything, the woman began, but heard two loud thuds. She whipped her head around. Lee had punched two in the face, knocking them unconscious. Lee looked at Tsunami. Are you okay? He asked. Yes, I'm fine, she replied. Good, I'll stay and watch you. Naruto's going to the bridge, he told her. What does it matter, they'll all die, Inari muttered. Lee turned towards the boy. What makes you say that, Inari-san? He asked. Inari glared. Heroes don't exist, they all die, Inari told Lee. Not Naruto. Inari, he survived years of the village hating him. Attempts on his life, all for one person, Lee told him. Inari's eyes went wide. He's a shinobi who nothing came naturally to. Lee sat down and whispered. He'll save the village, Lee finished confidently. Inari watched Lee. He turned towards the bridge. Naruto glared as Zabuza threw kunai. Hello, rubber boy, he greeted ominously. Naruto, run, he's only here to kill you, she ordered. Naruto put his hands up and told his teacher no. Zabuza laughed. You got guts, kitty started towards Naruto, the carving knife on his shoulder. Naruto smirked. Gum rapid fire. The mist thickened, and just as the blurred fist flew towards Zabuza. The fist passed through Zabuza. Naruto hissed as he felt the dull side of the sword hit him in the spine. He whipped around, but the man was already gone. They all heard a loud crack as the back side of the sword smashed onto the top of Naruto's head. He turned to the shocked Jonin. Rubber boy, he taunted. He swung both his fists into the man. Zabuza felt the flurry of fists collide crush his stomach. He growled. Haku, now Naruto, stop, as Zabuza slammed into the guardrail. Naruto, behind you. Naruto's eyes went white as the needles burrowed into his back. Zabuza punched Naruto in the face, forcing the teen to stumble back. He felt 4 more needles. Zabuza kneed him in the gut. Kurenai got to her feet and charged the two. She grabbed Haku and punched him in the face. Zabuza smirked and picked Naruto up. He threw him into Kurenai, ready for round 2. Genjutsu mistress. She looked down at Naruto. Can you continue? Yeah, Naruto replied. She pulled the needles out. The holes glowed bright red for a split second, closing quickly. His eyes shifted dangerously. Kurenai watched Naruto worriedly. Haku and Zabuza watched at the two. Take care of the genin, Zabuza growled. Haku immediately disappeared. He winced at the elbow to the stomach. Haku and grabbed Naruto's shoulder and kneed him in the exact same spot. He slid away from the false hunter Nin. Is it a Naruto? Naruto eyes widened at the delicate voice. You, he gasped loudly. I'm sorry, she whispered. She blurred towards him. Naruto reacted this time, kicked her mid-run into the face. Listen, I don't want to fight you, Naruto tried. Haku jumped up, a thin needle in her hand. Naruto jumped away from her, barely dodging the needles attempted at his heart. Haku, please, she slashed, Naruto backpedaling. Suddenly Naruto realized, Zabuza, he's your precious person. She jumped up and landed a sound kick to Naruto's top half. Naruto rolled and managed to get back on his feet. Haku took her mask off and grinned. I never wanted this, Naruto, to hurt your ally. But I only live for Zabuza, he gave me a reason for living. Naruto nodded his head. He's a Kurenai, he acknowledged. The Jonin cast a glance at their apprentice. Yes, Haku replied coldly, putting her mask on. We could have been friends, Naruto countered sadly. Putting his arms into his brawler stance. Haku charged him. She jumped in the air and threw a senbon at Naruto. He backpedaled, dodging the needles. Gum rapid fire. A round shield wrapped around herself. They all heard the loud bang as she slid under the force of the attack. Naruto dropped and did a leg sweep. Haku jumped into the air and thrust the shield at Naruto. Naruto caught the shield with one arm. His arm shook under the weight of the female and thick shield. Kurenai slammed his fist into Zabuza's shoulder. He hissed in pain as she kneeled down and brought her fist into his kneecap. Zabuza gasped loudly. Damn, attempted to grab her but kicked his legs out. I hate Genjutsu fighting styles. Naruto was barely managing to dodge the female's speedy kicks. She jumped off his slightly bent knee and slammed her knee into the center of Naruto's face. Naruto took 2 steps back. "Naruto-kun," Hinata screamed. She landed in front of him, a half-dome of ice wrapped around him. "I'm sorry, Naruto-kun," she did hand signs and yelled ninja art. Crystal ice needles. Naruto swung his arms in front of his face, just in time for a barrage of ascend and embedded themselves into his body. He backpedaled under the rain of needles. The half-dome shrunk as the needles flew towards Naruto. He stumbled back into the guardrail of the bridge. Naruto was breathing weakly as the barrage stopped. Haku down and jumped into the air. She sailed towards Naruto. He felt her 2 feet slam into his chest. They all heard the bridge's guardrail groan under the force of the attack. The rail gave way, sending Naruto falling off the bridge. "Naruto!" they all exclaimed loudly. Naruto felt the world go black around. He crashed back first into the water with a loud splash. "Wake up!" Naruto's eyes popped open. He was in a dank sewer, with a large cage along the back wall. A deep red eye was locked on Naruto. "Finally, my jailer has come. Who are you?" He gave a loud laugh that sent a chill down Naruto's spine. "Most people know me as the 9-tailed demon fox," he growled lowly. "What are you doing in me?" Naruto exclaimed loudly. He then roared loudly. "You're the reason everybody hates me. It's time for you to awake." Naruto watched the red wave climb up to his legs. He screamed in pain as it reached his mouth. "No!" he roared. Naruto's eyes snapped open. They were deep red, with deep black slits. The water bubbled around him. He let out a loud fear roar. Haku and Zabuza whipped around as a pillar of deep red chakra flew out of the water. Suddenly a claw-like hand grabbed onto the railing. Naruto flew out of the water. The sun and needle were forced out of his body. The small holes healed immediately. Naruto landed on the guardrail. He let out second guttural roar. He locked onto the still fighting Jonin. "Zabuza!" he roared. Naruto dove off the rail. He went straight for the sword wielder, the red chakra leaving a trail behind him. Zabuza slid in front of the two and swished her hand, creating a wall of ice. "That won't stop me!" Naruto exclaimed. His fist pierced straight through the barrier, shocking the 4 Genin. Haku didn't have time to react. The fist collided with her face. She flew away from the Jonin as if she was shot out of cannon. Zabuza turned as the blonde continued his path towards him. "Gum gum sonic boom!" he roared loudly. His arms became shaky. A loud boom echoed throughout the village, and Zabuza flew away from Naruto. Naruto roared in triumph. He turned towards the red-eyed Jonin. She got a good look at the blonde. His hands had become large claws, and his canine teeth grew longer and sharper. His blonde hair was more wild, and the whisker marks on his cheeks had become whiter and darker. He turned as the two got up. "I'll take them," he stated. Naruto disappeared. Zabuza felt the 2 fists collide with his stomach. He slid back as the rubber boy turned and grabbed Haku. Naruto began to spin the ice user over his head. Gum gum slingshot. He released Haku, sending the girl flying towards the wood pallets. Zabuza ran and attempted to grab the teen, but Naruto had already ran away. The demon of the mist turned around as the fox-powered Naruto ran behind him. He felt the vice grip-like grip grab his wrist. Zabuza felt his teeth shake as Naruto punched him in face. He flew into the air. Naruto continued to hold his wrist. "Gum gum slingshot," he yelled loudly. "Bring the swordsman down with a crack." Zabuza slid away from Naruto. He walked towards the downed man. Naruto raised his claw to get the kill shot when a needle pressed firmly against his neck. "Why Haku?" he growled lowly. "He made my life," she whispered. "He gave me a purpose." "Good work, kid." All the ninja froze. A short man with wild graying hair was standing. A small army of mercenaries were behind him. "The best thing about missing ninja is that nobody misses them when I kill them," he growled. The red chakra flared. "Are you Gato?" he growled lowly. "Yes, why?" Naruto turned, anger clearly written on his face. "Then you die here today." Haku felt the shock wave hit her as Naruto disappeared. The man had no time to react as the fist dug into his stomach. He cried as Naruto started spinning his hand. The men turned and tried to stab him, but Naruto disappeared. The 6 ninja looked around as Naruto began smashing his way through the group. The mercenary began running from the blonde. After 3 minutes, only the severely injured Gato was left. He laughed hauntingly as Naruto began walking towards him menacingly. "Come on, kid," he coughed loudly. Suddenly large blades slammed into his belly. Zabuza was standing beside Naruto. "Good work, rubber boy," he complimented coldly. Zabuza looked at the village. "You could have left," he told Kurenai. "This mission clearly outdid your team. Why did you stay?" "Nobody deserves the life Gato brings," Naruto told the man. Zabuza looked down at Naruto. "Take her to Konoha. She's not technically a ninja," he told the group. Naruto watched him pull the blade from the man's gut. He walked to the edge of the unfinished bridge. "Hey, where are you going?" Naruto asked. As the red chakra faded, the only marking left on his body was the large scar from his first encounter with Zabuza. Zabuza turned home. "I heard they finally chose a new Mizukage. Hopefully she'll accept me back." He turned towards his injured partner, who was struggling to follow. "Stay Haku," he ordered, before turning and jumping off the bridge. Naruto looked at Kurenai. "What am I?" he asked. "Well guys, that is it for now. Make sure to like and subscribe. See you guys later.